what as a fresher should focus more on? Because I see a lot of questions in my LinkedIn DMs and on my YouTube channel. People asking, so should we learn DSA or should we learn development? I see most of the people lie in the FOMO that my friends are very good in DSA, but I'm still struggling to create a web page writing HTML, CSS code.
Specifically from a fresher's perspective, obviously you need to focus on applying for bigger companies. Some of the mistakes that I made in my journey, or I've seen other people make in their journeys, is to try to mug up these DSA questions, or try to also go depth-wise instead of just breadth-wise.
So here everyone, today we have Kavisha Mathur with us. She's an SD at Tesco. She has won multiple hackathons. She has been active tech speaker at multiple large-scale community events. So let's get started and hear from her learnings and see what she has to offer for us.
Hi guys, I'm Kavisha Mathur. I'm an SD at Tesco. Thanks for the introduction, Anubhav. I've spoken at multiple events. Some of them are Google I/O, Google Dev Fest, the Grace Hopper event, the India edition, and won multiple hackathons like the Google Agentic AI Hackathon, Microsoft Chalang, and many more. So let's get into it.
So Kavisha, please introduce yourself, maybe something from your background, your college, and how's your life at being Tesco so far?
So I did my BTech from PS University in Bangalore, and I did it in computer science. So I got placed in Tesco through my college placements itself. It was one of the first few companies that came. So that's how I landed up in Tesco. I've been with Tesco for about 2 years, and I've had the good fortune of working on large-scale systems, API migrations, feature toggles. I primarily work in the backend. So I work with Java, microservices, Spring Boot, Kubernetes, Docker, and more. So that's my primary tech stack.
That's super cool. Seems like, do you want to speak something on how your life at Tesco been as a woman in tech?
Tesco really focuses on their diversity, whether it's for women or the LGBTQ community. So they are flag bearers for this in this domain. And as far as the women in tech is, we do have a lot of circles that run, that is the WIT circles. So we have a lot of support that comes from even the leadership. I myself lead a few circles for some of the newer grads, so that they are comfortable as they move from college to corporate. So yeah, it's been a good journey.
Super. So I want you to explain to my viewers what Tesco is, because we know about Walmart, but quite a less folks know what is Tesco and Target. So maybe you can speak something on that.
Tesco is not very good with branding. They're still getting there. Tesco is a huge retail company in the Europe, and primary headquarters lie in UK. So it has a wide range of products. It ranges from clothing to Tesco Mobile, Tesco Bank. It has the largest market share in the retail sector in UK.
Super. So let's come to the next topic. I think most of us viewing wanted to learn this from you, that how do you win hackathon? What kind of hackathon you have been participating so far? How's been your winning journey? And if you want to share something from your experience.
So I started participating in hackathons back in the second year of college, and it wasn't a winning streak from the starting. So there were a lot of losses before our team started placing in the top 10 or top 5. So the reason behind participating in hackathons was to get exposure to what are the problems that companies are trying to solve, what are the tech stacks that they use in their companies. So that's how it started. I started mine from an IEEE hackathon, Silicon Rush, where the prizes included NFTs, and that's what we won, where we created a blockchain solution. I think college students should really participate in these kind of events, because you kind of get a community building experience. You get exposure to these companies. You meet a lot of mentors who could guide you in your journey even then, and you can even land internship opportunities if you network well, or if there are some like JPMC Code for Good is kind of a hackathon that comes around the second or third year for college students, and that even gives internship opportunities. So there are many more things like that.
That's great to hear from this experience. So I wanted to learn, I recently checked your profile. You have been giving tech events at multiple community events. So how do you land up there? And maybe you can share some of your very recent tech talks with us.
speaking at communities started again from my college time itself, and it starts small. It doesn't happen on the large scale instantly. So some of the recent events that I took part was in the Google Dev Fest, Google I/O, Grace Hopper, where the audience was thousands. But it doesn't start there. It starts very small, very basic. It could be an internal talk at your college, at your office place, to build confidence and to build visibility and credibility for whatever work you're putting out there. And that's how I landed up. There was, and one opportunity honestly led to another. It was like a domino effect. When I went to, and the initial events that I used to go as just an attendee. I saw other speakers. Try to imbibe whatever qualities and whatever topics they were speaking on. And that's how it started for me.
Cool. So I wanted to understand, how do you apply? Let's say if I want to give a tech talk, how do you select a topic and how do you send a proposal, and what's the chances of, how can you maximize the chances of getting selected?
Correct. So I think there are 2 or 3 ways of speaking at such wide forums. One is CFP. So CFP is a call for a proposal. So any big event that happens, they are trying to gather as many speakers from wide backgrounds, right? A wide variety of backgrounds. So these CFPs, the call for proposals start 2-3 months prior to the event, and they get submissions from all around the world, if not around the country. Depends on the scale of the event. And most of the events, like, your LFX events, PyCon, KubeCon, they even sponsor the speakers' travel, accommodation and everything, which is like a incentive for more speakers for applying. And apart from the community exposure that you get for all the like-minded people in the same tech stack that you're working. So how do you create these CFPs? You basically there are a lot of CFP templates that are available online, but it has to be specific to the topic. First, you need to start with choosing a topic which adheres to the community guidelines and the community theme for maybe that event. And after that, you start with a simple question of what you want to deliver and what you want your audience to hear. So it could be a technical talk or a non-technical talk. You just need to think of what you want the audience to take away at the end of your talk, and then start to build around it. There are different types of talks and different types of CFPs. So there is a lightning talk that is in almost all tech events, which is a 15-minute slot that every speaker gets. And maybe you can start from there, where you just deliver a 15-minute talk. So for those, CFPs don't have to be too long. They can be 1 page, just what you're talking on, what is the agenda of the talk and what you're going to cover. It can even go to a 1-hour masterclass. So over there, you could be giving a demo of some tool that you have created, or some about some technical topic, and you could be doing a deep dive. So that's how you can get in.
Super. So I saw you spoke something related to Jira in one of your very recent. Do you want to share that?
So one of the recent ones that I did was an online event. It was part of the Atlassian community. So it was about how AI is getting integrated in Jira and Confluence. So anyone who is in any workspace has been exposed to Jira and Confluence in their day-to-day activities. So we know as developers or project managers how hard it can be without AI, and a lot of things are getting automated in that space, and how Atlassian is making these tools easier to use for developers, project managers, and more.
Super. That's great to hear. AI is something that everyone wants to hear about. If AI is taking our job or not, but we won't be talking about that in this talk. But yeah, I think this question is from one of my personal questions that I wanted to ask. Let's say if someone wants to speak at such big tech events, or maybe they want to start, but they're feeling nervous. How do we get rid of it? Like, what is your practice or secret mantra that maybe once you start it, the things would be that we might be not very comfortable speaking, or maybe words are in our head, but we are not able to speak confidently. So how to bring that confidence?
Correct. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I've been there, where you're thinking faster and the words coming
Exactly.
are not exactly what you want
Yeah,
to convey
exactly.
to the audience. So, yeah, in that case, obviously, you need to start small first because you can't expect to deliver in a room full of thousands of people. You need to start with just a small internal talk, maybe whatever session, even if you're applying for a bigger event, start with just practicing. People say practice in front of a mirror and stuff, but you can practice.
Does it really work?
I've tried it back in my school times.
Okay.
It works, I guess, if everyone is bored of listening to.
One thing which I started was to start giving talk within your organization, the company that you're working on.
Right.
So I think most of the organization have swarming session, learning sessions, lightning talks. Maybe try speaking in those events.
Yeah.
Because those are like 30, 40, 50 minutes, 1 hour max. And from there we can try to build our confidence and then we can start speaking at the bigger events.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can definitely learn from Kavisha that how we can apply to those and how to write a good proposal. She has already explained. So let's move to the next question, which is I think very, very important and very debatable. From your journey, I can reflect that you have focused more in the development area, like not the DSA mode on the development side, like winning hackathons is, we need that kind of skill like web development, blockchain, not. So I wanted to hear from you, what is your take on DSA versus development? What as a fresher should focus more on, because I see a lot of questioning in my LinkedIn DMs and on my YouTube channel. People asking, so should we learn DSA or should we learn development? I see most of the people lie in the FOMO that my friends are very good in DSA, but I'm still struggling to create a web page writing SQL, CSS code. So what's your take on that?
Great question. Like you said, it is debatable. But highlighting what you asked specifically from a fresher's perspective, obviously you need to focus on DSA when you're applying for bigger companies. Nowadays, depending on the company that you're applying for, if the requirements of the companies are focusing on development, because you might get prior interview experiences on LeetCode and other platforms where they're saying that, okay, the interview rounds have been focused on development. In that case, you can focus on some high-level development, maybe HTML, CSS, if it's a front-end role, or if it's a back-end role, maybe Node.js, Express, and more. But it really, I think, all comes back to DSA because it boosts your problem-solving abilities, and that is the primary thing that most companies are judging you off. So even if you start, whether it's a front-end, back-end role that you're applying for, the first round is always an online assessment, which judges your DSA skills. And even if you go past it, it is primarily DSA related questions and computer fundamentals, maybe OS, CN, DBMS, and more. But when you with just applying to the companies, you also need to have some projects in your resume.
Yeah.
And that's where development comes into picture, right? Like you need to have a full stack project, maybe blockchain project like you were mentioning, or anything that interests you. And that maybe I think comes under the development category.
Yeah.
So until you don't have those projects highlighted in your resume, it can't get you shortlisted in the first place to sit for these DSA rounds. So I think both kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. So just a follow up on this. So as I can summarize this, you're saying both are very equivalent. In the starting, we might need to learn development because our resume needs some projects. So let's say if someone is participating in hackathons, so those projects can be easily mentioned in the resume and they don't need explicitly to work on something.
Yes, that's good.
And that's a +1 point that I can summarize. And how to find the active hackathons, like how one can search for near, well, let's say I'm in Bangalore, how can one be actively or proactively looking for what kind of hackathons are going on nearby? Is there any way you approach, like you used to approach in your college days?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there are a couple of forums. I think college themselves are, organizing many hackathons.
Yeah.
If you come, even if it's not in your college, you can always go to cross-college hackathons. If not in your college, there are websites like DevFolio where, hackathons are listed around the country itself and nearest to you. So you can always apply to those. And I think LinkedIn, subscribe to some email newsletters from bigger companies where they share information like this. So.
Superb. Something that I can recall from my college days was Smart India Hackathon.
Yeah.
and this was the one of the biggest hackathon that I ever participated. Stood second, and then there was a thing called Zoo Hackathon. It's Delhi based. I spent a lot of time. I think it should be more active in the community space. You have to look for. There's no website that has a page or something which shows. Is there anything something like
There
that?
is DevFolio that's come up in the past 2-3 years, which has all the hackathons.
Recent hackathons.
Yeah.
Superb.
Yeah.
That's good. So, Kavisha, another question to you. Even after winning multiple hackathons, speaking at such big tech events, how do you keep yourself motivated and still pushing your goals further? You must be having some vision that you might want to speak at some big tech events or something. Maybe you can share your journey that you're planning for the next 1 year so that our viewers can motivate from you.
Yeah, great question. So I don't think I've achieved the pinnacle of speaking at very, very large events. It's only growing bigger, or winning at hackathons. It has only just started. I see it from more of a learning perspective because I get exposed to a lot of tech giants from big companies like Google, Amazon, all of these industry leaders that come up in these events, and I get to network with them, especially when you go for a tech event, and if there's like an after party or any sort of a networking gala that happens, and you also get to explore, like, these kind of events happen in 5-star hotels, so the after party is a good plus point as well, but you really get to learn from these people, take guidance and mentorship from these people, so that is something that keeps me going. Next, a North Star vision that maybe I have for this year would be to speak at international conferences, and let's see how that goes.
So let's see how the power of manifestation works. So another question that I see a lot of people asking is how we can cope up with the AI race, because AI is moving so fast. How, as an engineer, I want to learn from your experience, how you are adapting with AI and what are the challenges you are facing. Do you also feel left behind? Because AI is such a rapid move, changing every day, new tech, like new algorithm, new tool. So I want to listen from you. What's your take on this?
Yeah, you're right. AI is moving at an extremely rapid pace, right? But I feel like the transition in bigger companies is a little slower because incorporating AI into, your code bases and using it as an, individual code writer or a developer, so to say, is not exactly the case. What we as developers are doing are we're trying to use these AI tools to just become more efficient and productive in our day-to-day task. So I don't think the question really is that will AI replace us? It might just be another engineer who knows how to prompt AI better into getting the work done. So just using it as an instrument towards writing better code or getting your tasks done faster would be the way to escape the metrics that AI is going to take my job away.
Yeah, I think this recalls to me that quotation that AI will not take your job, but someone using AI might.
Right.
So we, as an engineer, needs to be good adopters. Like, we should automate our boring workflow, manual workflows, and try to get rid of this mindset that AI might take our job. Someday at all, AGI might take our job. But yeah, let's not talk about that. Moving forward, before we wrap up, before we end this, the last question. What kind of advice that you want to share to a fresher or maybe someone who is about to pass out like the last year? How he should have an approach on applying to companies? What kind of mindset he should have? As per from your learnings and journeys, what kind of mistakes he can avoid? Just an advice that can help to move faster and do not make the mistakes that you used to do in your career.
Great question, because we learn from others' mistakes. We'll be able to get to, like a destination much faster. Some of the mistakes that I made in my journey, or I've seen other people make in their journey, especially as a fresher or a developer, trying to get into an engineering role, is to try to mug up these DSA questions or, not understanding what they're trying to solve, what is the problem, the crux of the problem. So while you're solving like DSA questions or any other engineering problem, try to also go depth-wise instead of just breadth-wise. that would give you a stronger grasp, and you would remember all these fundamentals in the longer run instead of revising the same concepts again and again before every single interview or exam. And how should he or she apply is obviously, if you are lucky in a good campus, hopefully you're able to crack some company on campus itself. But there are a lot of opportunities off campus, and I think one of the reasons why Anubhav is doing this today is also because in off campus, going to these networking events, hackathons and stuff, you get to network with people from other companies. And even if you just put in your name or network with these people, just send in your resume or create this sort of a professional network where you're able to apply for companies faster. So that would be one. That would be another thing. And just keep learning, not from a space of fear, but just in order to become a better engineer, become a better developer.
Super. Do you want to speak something on the women in tech? All my female engineers or female viewers, they might want to hear from you because you're doing really great in this space. And any advice that maybe anything related to maybe women in tech internships, because I have seen a lot of diversity happening in 2026. I made a recent video on that too. Do you want to speak on that something?
Women in tech is an initiative that a lot of companies are adopting, and like he said, diversity hiring. In fact, the internship that I landed was also part of the diversity hiring that Tesco does. So a lot of companies are hiring from tier 2, tier 3 colleges as well as part of that diversity hiring. So keep a lookout for these opportunities. I can think of Walmart Coders. So Walmart Coders, there's
Ubers.
Uber She program that is happening. Google WE, I think Women E.
A lot of I think Atlassian also hosts women in tech.
So there are a lot of these kind of programs that happen. So keep an eye out. Obviously, the influx of applicants are also more as more and more people are getting to know. But the faster you apply, if you have a referral, that could really, you could really leverage all of these things. And be in communities where you are constantly getting this news, whether it's following people on LinkedIn, having subscribed to some newsletters, email newsletters from these companies like Uber, Atlassian, so their programs that any hiring programs that they're coming up with.
That's super cool. Thank you so much, Kavisha, for taking out time from a busy schedule and having this podcast. We are really fortunate to have you, and we'll be continuing having such kind of podcasts going further. So if you have any doubts, you can put in the comment, or you can reach out to Kavisha directly on her LinkedIn. I'll put the LinkedIn profile in the description. So thank you so much for watching. Bye, take care.
So I've started it has
So Kavishka, another question.
मैं नहीं आता, मैं जा रही हूँ.